everybody, this is Perch. I read a lot of articles. I listen to a lot of different kind of analysis and points, most of which has nothing to do with comics. Probably not a big surprise, right? I'm particularly fascinated by media spending, which sounds super boring, and media manipulation. And somebody in mail pointed out this book. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And I've actually read that book before. I've read it many times, and I picked it up seeing this mail. I'm like, I haven't read this in a few years. Picked it up, read it again. It's as good as it ever was. In fact, it's probably so much better now because if you read this book, and I'm going to probably do a number of videos kind of around this. I can hear people groaning already, but no, it's very good stuff. It explains a lot about social media. It explains a lot about comic book outrage. It explains a lot about how certain things get trending and how people get angry and why it's a business. It explains a lot about why the comic news sites are the way they are and why they're just not comic news. People say, I wish we could have comic news. Well, there's a very clear reason why we're getting what we're getting, why we're getting more outrage news, why we're getting fluffier news, why we get algorithm based headlines. It's all for a point. And it's not all about money. In some cases it's about social credibility, it's about sharing. But it's fascinating to view that. And combined with that book, there's two other kind of news items that I'm looking at right now. And I can't help but immediately start thinking about how things are in comics, even though these articles have nothing to do with comics. The first is talking about the last election and the fact the last election spent a record amount of money, more money than ever before, almost double when you count in online spend and TV spends. And there were over, I believe it said 4 million televised advertisements during the last election cycle. 4 million. That is an absurd amount of television advertising. And this article goes on to say that of those, more than 75% were negative ads. They were not positive ads. They were ads designed to trash the other person, which was also a record. That the tipping of the advertisements were firmly in the camp of negative. So what does that all mean? Well, it perhaps collides with the second story, and you'll see how I loop all this back to comics. The second story being, what is the most attractive characteristic in a mate? And you're going to think I'm making this up, but no. Check it out. What is most attractive, personality in a mate? Recent survey. A number of different news articles have all covered this. So I can. If you want me to show you right with receipts, I just say type that into Google, click on news. They'll all come up. A lot of different articles analyzing this. What do you suppose the number one trait is? Well, among women, it's moral outrage is the number one trait people are looking for in a mate. Most desirable. Now think about that for a moment. And with men, it's not the top, but it's in the top 3. I think it's number 3. Think about this for a minute. This means that over financial stability, over physical appearance, over health, over good with kids, moral outrage is a highly desirable trait in a mate. This means that you are more likely to be attracted to someone, to look for someone who shows characteristics of being morally outraged. I can't think of anything more horrifying to me personally, but these and surveys are always dodgy. I mean, the people who are responding to them, what are the methods? There's a million things. I'm going to say I have a hard time buying that of the American population, and this is an American poll, not a world poll, of the American population, that truly a majority of people find that others, a mate, a partner who is continuously pissed off about a moral or social topic is desirable. That is more important to them than, say, financial stability or physical characteristics. That is the number one. The person who's this is a case where the social justice warrior, the morally outraged person, is the most attractive. Again, I have trouble believing that is true. But when we look around and we see constant outrage, this threats over cancel culture, over this is bad, that's bad, let's get this out. The recent discussions around different online ways, NFTs and other ways to ship comics, and seeing these not just hot takes, but angry hot takes, not just I don't think this is a good idea, or I don't think this will catch on, or who's going to want to actually get artwork in this way. No, it's you are killing the planet. You are killing people. You are ruining Earth for all generations to come. Not this is stupid, but this is a dire consequence. This is a moral imperative to stop Rob Liefeld for drawing digital art. That's absurd, right? I mean, I still have to believe that most people, a strong majority of people, look at this and say, "Well, those people are insane." But it's clearly caught into comics, both with this current this current issue, but also various people who come and go. The response to Joe Steranko, who's in his mid 80s, and you saw it in the comments. You saw somebody go, "I cannot believe you are you're not more outraged on this. Unsubscribe." Okay, I was happy to see him. I was happy to see a person go, to be honest. But a guy in his mid 80s, if feeling disappointed that he said Chinese virus, feeling like, oh man, this is kind of ashamed. I kind of have you ever had the situation where your grandparents or an older relative says something racist, and you're like, ugh. What's funny for me is the most common for me is an older relative who is Japanese, who will say incredibly racist things about the Chinese because, newsflash, those two races do not like each other. Turns out, I understand the history of why. But you know that feeling where you're like, ugh, sickened, right? Or sickened's too strong a word, but you're just embarrassed by them. But you're also looking at them going, well, this person's like 90, and you know, I'm not going to go pick at their house over this. I'm just going to be embarrassed. I'm going to be, but you see people like I've seen comic creators recently post long threads about how they're calling out their mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers for racist behavior, and it's not like it's bad things they're saying, but I mean, why are we taking to Twitter to make a parade over a racist old person? That does not seem like a good reaction to actually stop racism. It seems like performance art, which we've talked about before. But it goes the other direction as well. Look, I mean, you see this, the socialist commie SJWs are ruining comics. They're sitting around, they're plotting to ruin comics forever. And it is, you just see people get really bent out of shape. And I was talking with a friend about this, and it's like, yeah, I mean, insiders we hear, they say, hey, these dumb decisions that everybody's attributing to social engineering and evil commie plots, it's stupidity. It's people who are incompetent. Incompetence is running the day, not political ideology, dummy behavior. And yeah, of course, of course. The problem when you see companies or people in comics making really stupid decisions and then you attributing them to a really clever plot, it's like those two don't go together. Clever plot and stupid decisions often are mutually exclusive. If people are really bright and clever about these plans, more of them would be succeeding, but they're laughably failing at times. But the outrage is very attractive. And that's kind of the point of some of these articles. It's that, if you're not outraged, if you're not angry, you're not committed. You're wishy-washy. You're a centrist. You're a fence sitter. You're in the middle. And we've kind of been trained And we're training each other to despise those people. To really, it's not enough to say, hey, I picked up this comic and I didn't like it. It wasn't good. But I went and read another comic. It's like, pussy. That's kind of the reaction. As opposed to, what we're supposed to just get really, really mad about this comic. It's unnatural, but it is a byproduct of social media. It's a byproduct of kind of how we're being steered and controlled. The reality is there's a lot of control that we can have over people if we get them really pissed off all the time and running around raging at things. They tend to turn off their critical thought. They tend to listen to whatever the loudest voice in the room is saying. And if you're a cable news host, for example, you can have a really loud voice, you can shout, and you can control people. You get people tuning in every week to come back for their fix of outrage. And in comics, look at the ringleaders, particularly of the comic creator side, the people who are not really creating many comics, but they're on Twitter every day pissed at something. Pissed. These are the people who out of nowhere will just start fights with Comicsgate or other groups. When I say out of nowhere, I mean literally nowhere. Nobody is talking about stuff. And for whatever reason, let's start a big thread saying, these people are trash. Screw those people. Like, most of the people you're talking about are irrelevant. Sorry. They're not even doing anything. What good is it? Well, the good is to get people angry, to get people outraged, to get people kind of caught up in that cycle, and to control. I think it's insidious on all fronts. I think this idea that we've got to whip people up to get them really, really mad about something, to ignore what they're actually saying, to maybe give somebody the benefit about, oh, that person just said something stupid. We don't need to spend 2 hours raging over it. It's control. It distracts people from, in many cases, that people aren't doing anything. A lot of the biggest outrage emergents are not actually doing anything. They're spending a lot of time telling you that you should be pissed off. They're tweeting like mad to tell you about how terrible things are. This comic is ass. This people are bad. This group is bad. This whatever it happens to be. And they're producing very, very little. The people who rage the most produce the least. It's amazing how that kind of works. The production is outrage. The outrage is control. It's certainly political because we see it that way there, but it's everywhere. It's in shows, entertainment, it's in fandoms. I had somebody write to me a very genuine, I thought very well written note, email, saying, was it always this way? When was it always this toxic, this angry, this, trigger happy, this like one little thing is said and like immediately people go flaming off in every direction? So was it always this way? The answer is no, it wasn't. It's been built up this way. The challenge is that it's hard to, I think we've got to fight against the tide. You've got to swim against the current of water to get out of this, because the second you start saying things like, you know what, I'm not going to get mad about this today, people are after you. Look at some of the comic creators on Twitter or Facebook or wherever who have kind of opted out. Say, you know what, I'm just going to talk to everybody reasonably. Look at Brian Edward Hill. He's a very calm, normal person. Look at some of the responses he's got. Look at some of the concern trolls who've come in there and be like, you can't be calm. You cannot be calm, sir. You have to be mad. You need to get really, really angry at these people. Don't you realize they're the baddies? Don't you realize what they're doing? Don't you realize what they're doing to comics? You have to get mad. And it cuts the other way too. I mean, there are people who wake up every single day and it is their mission to shit on comics. And you should be mad. Everything being produced is trash. Everything. It's a cycle that this isn't just comics. This is everything. The trick is, don't get sucked into the outrage. It's not healthy. It takes away your ability to reason. I mean, you can make a conspiracy about whatever you like, but that's not benefiting anyone. But it is very addicting. And to me, I see the danger of, hey, it feels like we have a collector. We still have our collector community. In comics, we still have collectors. The collectors are people collecting outrage. The creators are creating outrage. That's the new product. Outrage. Very profitable product for some, but it sucks. I don't like that creative team. I want that book canceled. Where's Jim Shooter to come here and say, sorry, Outrage does not have the minimum sales criteria. We're canceling the book. We're doing another Spider-Man book. That's what we're doing. Come on. Come on, Jim Shooter. Come save us. Cancel this outrage. Cancel culture. I don't know. Just please, you know, it's weird to watch in slow motion this train wreck. It's weird to watch it be so successful. This last election, like I said, more money spent than ever before in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of basically us being told the economy is shutting down, restaurants going out of business, people are fucked, and we're spending a record amount of money for elections. How is that humanly possible? Comics are struggling. They're expensive. The audience is shrinking. This is a fact. We have other big companies certainly making more money in comics. The overall pool is growing, but not from traditional Western comics, not from what we know in North America. That's shrinking. The average unit sold is smaller. That's not a Comicsgate conspiracy. It's a numerical fact. In a time when things are shrinking, why so much outrage? Like, isn't that the exact last possible thing we should have right now? Is calling out a variant cover artist the best possible way to help comics at this moment? You're a writer on a comic and you think the best thing to do is to call out a variant cover artist? Jim Steranko says a dumbass thing, offensive thing. Is everybody mobbing, with the exception of Greg Pak? Greg Pak, no shade. He I think his response was class. But with a lot of the others, the best thing you can do right now is to go after a mid-80s-year-old man who, in all seriousness, probably doesn't know what he tweeted. That is now is the best moment for that. What he said was stupid. I agree, but really, now seems strange. Outrage is a product, and I think we need to stop paying for it. Thanks for listening.